Hello, and welcome to Cybersecurity Today. I'm Jim Wiggins, your host, helping you navigate the world of cybersecurity. For those who might be new to our show, let me provide you with a brief overview. This program explores the sometimes complex realm of cybersecurity, where our goal is to provide insightful and engaging discussions on a variety of computer security topics. Our 30-minute episodes, styled as a talk show or news broadcast, address a broad spectrum of themes, issues, and the latest developments in cybersecurity. Tailored for an audience that spans from beginners all the way to seasoned professionals, the show offers critical insights and perspectives from leading experts on emerging trends in the cybersecurity landscape. Our mission is to serve a diverse audience, ensuring that whether you're new to the field or a veteran, you'll find today's episode both informative and engaging. Now, our program is generally divided into two distinct segments. The first segment we call Cyber Bites, and this focuses on a number of current issues and trends that are actively shaping the cybersecurity industry today. Then, in our second segment, we're pleased to welcome Mr. Ira Winkler, who will share his insights on the topic Stopping Stupid, Building a Culture of Security Awareness. All right, let's delve into the Cyber Bites segment and uncover the most recent developments in the cybersecurity world. In current news, the Biden administration's 2025 budget request includes nearly $13 billion for cybersecurity, marking a 10% increase from the previous year. Key investments include $470 million for the Continuous Diagnostics and Mitigation, or CDM program at DHS, and $455 million for AI research focused on safety and resilience. The budget also allocates significant funds to enhance cybersecurity and critical infrastructure, particularly the healthcare systems. A major theme is the shift towards secure by design and secure by default, encouraging IT providers to integrate security from the onset. In other news, Microsoft's August Patch Tuesday has addressed 90 vulnerabilities, including 5 zero-day exploits currently under active attack. The United States' Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, has mandated updates by September 3rd for federal agencies and recommends all users to prioritize these patches. The vulnerabilities include remote code execution, privilege escalation, and security feature bypasses affecting Windows 10, Windows 11, and various Windows Server versions. Timely updates are crucial to mitigate these threats and maintain system security. In other news, a significant data breach has exposed sensitive personal information of 2.7 billion individuals, potentially including every American, according to cybersecurity experts. The breach, involving national public data, has released Social Security numbers and other personal details on an online marketplace. Despite the severity, the company has yet to formally notify affected individuals, though it claims to have purged its database. Experts advise immediate credit freezes and enhanced security measures to mitigate potential damage. That concludes today's headlines. We'll take a brief interlude and return with our guest, Mr. Ira Winkler, to discuss Stopping Stupid, Building a Culture of Security Awareness. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back after the break. Have you heard about the Open Security Control Assessment Language, also known as OSCL, that's been developed and managed by the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST? OSCL is a groundbreaking initiative designed to streamline the security assessment process for both public and private organizations by providing a standardized language for expressing security controls. OSCL enables the automation of security control documentation, assessment, and reporting, eliminating manual, error-prone processes. With OSCL, security control information can be easily shared among stakeholders, fostering collaboration and ensuring compliance with various regulations. Use of OSCL can help to improve the efficiency of your organization, but also can contribute to a safer, more secure digital environment for everyone. More information about the Open Security Control Assessment language and how to implement it in your organization can be found by scanning the QR code or at the official OSCO website. Welcome back to Cybersecurity Today. Joining us now is Mr. Ira Winkler, an award-winning Chief Information Security Officer, or CISO, and a top-rated keynote speaker with an extensive background in cybersecurity. Currently serving as the CISO and Vice President of Cybersecurity, Ira is well known for his innovative approach to risk optimization for Fortune 2000 companies. With a career that includes strategic roles in major organizations like Walmart and the NSA, he is also a best-selling author of several cybersecurity books, including You Can Stop Stupid. Today, Ira will discuss Stopping Stupid, Building a Culture of Security Awareness, offering his expert insights into the critical need for security awareness within organizations. Ira, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's really appreciated.
Absolutely. We're really excited to have you here. Since we actually talked a little bit about your book, I wanted to ask, what inspired you to coin the phrase stopping stupid, and how does it differ maybe from traditional approaches that we think of within cybersecurity?
So basically, I heard the phrase a lot, you can't patch stupid, like some infamous hacker said that. And everybody's like, oh, let's quote that. And I'm sitting there thinking, at the end of the day, it's your job to quote unquote patch stupid. Now, patch has a very limiting term or whatever. And then also I should say one thing that's critical is when I say, stop stupid, everybody assumes are the users. Stupid is actually my hypothesis, the cybersecurity professionals who allow a user to click on a button and ruin your entire network. The issue is not that users will do something that is quote unquote, I use Dr. Evil quotes, stupid. The issue is that a single action somehow can take down a network, and that should never be the case. It would not be allowed in any other infrastructure. So anyway, it was I guess, clap back at people who say you can't stop stupid. And then also a little bit of kind of what it is, stupid designs of networks.
Understood. Let's build on that if we could for a moment. Can you share some additional examples of maybe stupid mistakes that can lead to significant security breaches?
Well, just for example, there's a lot. So for a phishing message, like everybody points to a user clicking on a phishing message and go, oh, stupid user, they just need more awareness. I'm sitting here like, okay, well, how did the message get to the user in the first place? And then if we know a user is eventually going to click on a phishing link, how come we're not doing more proactively to expect a potentially harmful action and to mitigate those actions proactively? So for example, you have secure email gateways, which can filter out attacks. You have, what's a good one? DMARC as an example on perimeter devices to help stop attacks that are coming into your network. You have anti-malware. You have system configurations that don't give users permission to ruin your entire networks or to take one system and ruin that one system and then ruin all the other systems on the network. This is all creating a technology infrastructure where you're expecting it. And then again, that's one example. Other examples, frankly, in accounting, where accounting is designed around the whole concept that people will make errors if not be malicious. So for example, accountants go ahead and they have audits in place to verify things. They have double checks. For example, when you sign checks over a certain amount or approval, it has to be approved by multiple people as an example, and so on. But those are just quick examples on how I address the concept.
Understood. You're introducing people into the equation. So to me, I think of building a security conscious culture. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on how an organization can begin to build one that is in fact culturally security conscious. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, most important, people don't like to acknowledge this, but if you want to create a security culture, that's going to be done from essentially top down with enforcement enforced from the bottom up. So for example, if you want people to shut off their desks at the end of the day, high-level management has to say, and this was actually a case where I worked with, where high-level management says, hey, all computers must be shut off at the end of the day. Guards will do rounds to ensure that computers are shut off at the end of the day. If a guard detects that a computer is left open, then the guard will make a note. They will close it. At the first occasion, we'll inform your manager. Second occasion, you will be called into the security office. Third occasion, you may be fired. The problem is that without enforcement, you don't have a policy. You know, I always hear the expression, you can't blame a user. And I'm like, why not? In any other discipline, if a user does something that's outside of policy, you know, and especially, you know, I have to say there has to be a just organization, and just organization means that the person has been trained to do things right. The person has the resources to do things right. And there's also no inhibiting factors to stop the person from doing things right. And so, for example, if there's a fire alarm at the end of the day causing everybody to leave, okay, maybe that is an excuse. The reality, though, is somebody doesn't lock their desks multiple times and they had incidents as a result of this. That creates a problem. And much like anything else, if you don't fill out your time card properly in organizations, you don't get paid. If you ruin the network because you don't follow policies, it's like we can't just say, please don't do that again. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I hear a lot of operational security controls and ideas in a lot of what you're talking about. I'm wondering if maybe we could expand upon that and talk a little bit about how maybe communication for the end users and or education from a continuous perspective might factor in or play a role in security conscious cultures. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so one of the issues, like I mentioned before, in order to have a just culture, users have to know what they should do. I think the biggest problem in security awareness, now security awareness, people think I'm downplaying the role. No, I wrote Security Awareness for Dummies. You Can't Stop Stupid. I do think you need to make people aware, but that is a tactic within the overall strategy. And there's nothing wrong with implementing a tactic well, and each tactic is required. However, the right way to do it, unfortunately, in cybersecurity, most cybersecurity training is centered around, I am a hacker. It's centered around the creation of fear. It's centered around creating the implication that no matter what you do, bad people are smarter than you and will get away with things. Really, for security awareness to work, it has to focus on how to do your job right. Security function should be embedded within every job function. And security awareness should focus on how to do your job properly, which includes doing it securely. And that's where the focus should be on. And then to the point, there's two types of, well, I would call it two categories of security awareness. There's passive and there's active. An example of active is where somebody has to stop, watch a video as an example, or take some sort of training or whatever else. Then there's passive training, and that includes, for example, putting a message on a screensaver when the screensaver comes up. It includes putting messages up in elevators, sometimes restrooms, putting a poster up or whatever the case is. And you should have passive reminders in as many places as reasonable, in addition to any active training that you're intending to do.
Understood. You talked about fear as kind of an element within the security awareness mechanisms and controls. How about fatigue? How does an organization overcome employee fatigue and maybe even some skepticism regarding security training, whether it's awareness and or traditional role-based training? Any thoughts on that?
So in many cases, I hear the term fatigue, and the reality is, much like I said, you need to enforce your policies. Frankly, the best awareness training is your culture, where if everybody does things right, you will do things right. For example, if I walk into an organization and everybody's wearing their badge, I'll be reminded to wear my badge just by looking at people. On the other hand, if I walk into an organization where nobody's wearing their badge and I'm wearing it, I'm going to take it off so I don't feel weird. And given all of that, again, the focus really needs to be, Sorry, I went through that example. I think I answered your question. What was the question itself?
It was about fatigue and also
Oh
about
yeah, so
skepticism.
fatigue
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
everything. So there's the concept, like if you have the same poster time and time again, it becomes background noise as an example. So you do have to change visuals a little bit. They have to look visually different. But then on the other hand, like I mentioned before, it should be a part of doing the job. There should not necessarily be fatigue. I keep harping on the example of filling out a time card. Do you, just because you feel fatigue in filling out a time card, does that mean you don't fill out your time card? No, you fill it out every time. Likewise, you do things right because it's just part of your job. And I think that's what we are afraid in many cases to do, is portray cybersecurity as an embedded part of every job function. And that's where we're missing out. And yes, training can be overdone. Training can be repetitive, and you don't want that. Posters can look redundant, even when you change the words on them. So again, you have to make them look visually fresh. But again, it should just be, in the ideal world, part of the culture and part of your job.
What I'm hearing in your last response was this idea of influencing behavior on the part of the user. I'm wondering, any thoughts on maybe how we might be able to use behavioral science and apply it to cybersecurity to maybe influence some of that behavior?
Well, a lot comes into it. Like, I mean, a lot, like I mentioned before, like organizational culture and impacting the organization as a whole, like how do people do things correctly? That's an example of behavior. That's an example of peer pressure, as an example of one form of behavioral science where everybody's doing something, so you do it. And I'm not saying you want to like, and it's not doing something stupid. It's how to do your job properly, and seeing other people do your job properly is critical. And I talk about, applied behavioral science and you can't stop stupid, where basically you are generating behaviors. And so a behavior is the predecessor of a behavior is an antecedent. Antecedent in traditional security awareness is information of some sort. Can also be observing people, just as an example. But you have an antecedent drives behavior. A behavior then creates a consequence, and then the consequence actually feeds back into the awareness as well as the behavior. So there's the old adage of like telling somebody or telling a child, if it's hot, you're going to burn yourself. And you say that, and it almost makes intriguing to the child. And then all of a sudden the child burns themselves, and then they say, hey, the consequence was I actually did burn myself, so I'm going to have a different behavior moving forward. So the whole concept of antecedent behavior consequence, what happens is generally you find statistically that 20% of behavior might be driven by information. 80% of behaviors are generated by the consequences. And you want to go ahead and look to how can you generate consequences? And consequences can be good, bad, or indifferent. So a good consequence might be, hey, I did something right and I was rewarded for doing something right. That's good. A bad consequence is, hey, I did something and I burned my hand. There's also the neutral consequence. And unfortunately, in cybersecurity, there's a lot of neutral consequences. And one of the examples is we tell people not to reuse their passwords. And the reason is that if they reuse the password's compromised, people will have a replay attack on your network. The reality of the circumstance is that somebody exhibits the behavior of reusing a password, and there is no consequence. As a matter of fact, it's almost a positive one because they have one less password to memorize. So anyway, they have that, and then nothing happens until somewhere on the internet something is compromised, and then it comes back to bite them, which by then they might be long gone and never have it. So anyway, a good thing for awareness purposes is to generate constant positive consequences. Also make sure you're enforcing your policy to potentially generate negative consequences and so on, because otherwise, most of the time we warn people not to do things and there's no consequence, or basically a neutral consequence, and therefore they're rewarded for doing the wrong thing.
Understood, understood. Great answer, thank you. I'd like to talk about metrics for a moment in terms of, training and awareness and things like that. From your background, what kind of metrics do you believe are most effective in measuring the underlying success of a security awareness program? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the problem is most metrics used in security awareness are really, in my opinion, poor. It's measuring, it's essentially measuring measurement. So people use phishing simulations as an example. We all know what they are. And people are like, oh, well, last time we had 20% of people click. Now we only have 7% of people click. It's like, okay, so they have learned to detect your simulated awareness messages, and sometimes that's good. Then they also measure engagement. How many people took our mandatory training? How many people like taking our training? And I'm like, who cares if they like taking your training? It just means that you're taking time away from work and they are rather do your training than do work. That doesn't make sense. But I like to look at metrics that actually measure actual behaviors in practice. So one example I give frequently is the number of malware incidents on your network, which your anti-malware might tell you about. And the reason I say that is the way malware generally gets into your network is through unsafe web browsing. It might be through phishing messages or mobile device usage or something like that. And what happens is actual malware on your network is a symptom of user awareness almost all occasions. Another example might be how many times has a web content filter blocked access to a malicious website? That's an example, an actual measurement that you theoretically have access to measure whether or not people are going to unsafe websites, as an example. And then, we have other measures such as number of lost mobile devices. That's, lost mobile devices means, okay, are people aware and protecting the equipment that they're entrusted with, as an example? You could also, for example, test the number of people who actually are using, whether it might be password tool, one-time password tools like LastPass, things like that, or other sorts of devices and other sorts of security tools. And that could be an indication of who is behaving properly. I don't like to say how many people are actually going ahead and taking awareness training itself, because that again is a fake metric that you're generating as opposed to a metric that mirrors actual behaviors.
That makes sense. That makes sense. We got a few minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about the future of changing behavior, maybe in the context of security awareness and training. What kinds of trends and technologies do you see coming down the pike that are going to hopefully make things better or maybe make things worse?
So what I tend to find is that you're going to there's a concept that I'm not a fan of, which is now changing the name of security awareness to human risk management. Because to me, that's putting lipstick on a pig. Because really security awareness has not been overly successful given, the number of incidents. And again, the reason is because they use it as a strategy, not a tactic like I advocate. And so when I look at things that could have an impact, I look at, and I'm talking about in generic awareness, not in the overall encompassment. Like, for example, there was a company company called Elevate, and they were recently acquired by Mimecast, and they measure behaviors in practice, which was helpful, and then throttle user accesses based upon that, which was, in my opinion, a good thing. Hopefully, we'll see more activity like that. Hopefully, we'll be able to see real-time measurement of actions and be able to throttle user permissions better. We can also hopefully see better metrics applied by some of the vendors who are out there. CyberSafe's a good example of that, where they're tailoring training a little bit better than most people are. So I'm hopeful in that perspective that awareness will improve, as well as hopefully we'll start to see, as a practice, integrating other technologies so that we're integrating the technologies together as a strategy not just relying upon security awareness, which is a tactic, as the strategy.
Understood. Last question for you, Ira. How can viewers of the show learn more about you and your work within the cybersecurity community?
So I have 8 books, which I am a fan of, although one of the books I'm not overly a fan of, Zen and the Art of Information Security, not a great one. But generally, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm one of 2 Ira Winklers on LinkedIn last time I checked, and we do not look alike. And then additionally, you can contact me through Cybersecurity, and my website, irawinkler.com, is being revamped, but hopefully you can catch me there, as well as potentially at many of the events I'm speaking at.
Awesome. Ira, we are out of time. Thank you for joining us and providing such invaluable insights to our viewers. We deeply appreciate the time you shared with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks anytime.
Absolutely. Well, guys and gals, that's going to conclude today's episode. We want to extend our thanks to our guest, Mr. Ira Winkler, for joining us and sharing his insight on the critical importance of building a culture of security awareness through his discussion on the topic of stopping stupid. We hope that today's program has been both enlightening and thought-provoking, offering fresh perspective on cybersecurity matters. For more information about cybersecurity today and to stay informed about upcoming episodes, please be sure to visit our show's website at www.cybersecuritytoday.org. Additionally, you can scan the QR code displayed at the bottom of your screen for quick and easy access to our show's website. Finally, we welcome your questions or comments via email at contact@cybersecuritytoday.org. Feel free to reach out to us. We look forward to seeing you at our next broadcast. Thanks a lot for joining us. Stay safe, stay informed.